Hey, Brandon,
Hey, Alan.
and welcome to Dice Over Everything, the Miniatures Gaming Podcast.
So, for no reason in particular, I was thinking, how long can eating one giant meal last you? Like, until you start feeling hungry again?
Uh, if it's a big enough meal, you can kind of cheat and make your meal take 3 hours
Oh,
and
I'm not worried about how
really
long.
pack things down.
I don't know, I
Okay,
guess. So,
when it ends,
presuming you optimize
sure.
that meal, like it's all meat, so it takes a long time to digest, and you just pack yourself over the course of 3 hours. Like, what's the maximum of when you think you'd start feeling hungry again?
The maximum 8
24
hours?
hours? Could you go full 24 hours or not?
Oh, well, if you include sleeping,
Yeah.
no, I don't think so.
No? Okay. Because we both
I'm
just stuffed us.
ravenous, man.
Yeah, I know. We both just stuffed ourselves ridiculously with Japanese style Korean barbecue, and I still nah, I should eat lunch the next day, which was vegetables, not nothing heavy, but still yeah, I should probably eat. So I did feel hungry
Really?
within. I don't
This
know.
morning I was like, not this morning. It was this late morning. I was like, no. I need more meat. So
You went home. You went home after stuffing yourself some possibly video games, and you're like, man, I've worked up an appetite.
yeah,
Nice,
exactly.
nice. Okay. Well, it took me maybe 18 hours to be hungry again.
So
So.
you're not hungry yet.
No, I was. So I had some
Oh, okay.
vegetables 18 hours after the maximum meal possible.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah.
So
So
you were hungry right before this call, basically, and you shoved something in your mouth.
no, I cooked because
So here's the thing. Actually, I feel like part of the reason why I wanted something in my stomach was the alcohol, because I find that if I drink alcohol, I feel in the morning that I need something in my stomach more. So it might not actually be hunger. It might just be a rumbling stomach that needs something to balance things out.
so it depends on the layers. If you put the food in first and the alcohol second,
Yeah,
you've then got to go back to food. Okay, okay.
yeah. I
All
do
right.
feel like alcohol, for whatever reason, makes me feel quote unquote hungry, but it's probably not actual hunger. It's just, it makes me feel like I need to put something in my stomach.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So on the note of over consuming, we have consumed many episodes of Frostgrave, and we now arrive at the end where we will vomit out piles of information about the 10 previous episodes. Oh no, 11 previous episodes because we did an intro as well.
I think we did two intros. So I
Oh,
believe this is probably lucky number 13.
wow. So we had two appetizers and then 10
Yes.
main courses, and now we're going for
And
dessert.
yep. And
Yeah.
just like we talked about eating so much
Mhm.
uh, and needing food immediately after, this is exactly the same thing with Frostgrave.
And
You can
actually,
never have enough. It only sates you for a short period of time, and then you got to get back into it.
and honestly, starting with dessert is probably fine because if you listen to this episode, we're going to sort of go through a bit of our recap of the wizard schools. So if you're even thinking about our impressions on those particular schools, you can just go and listen to that episode.
Mm-hmm.
So listen to this episode first is fine. Nothing wrong with that.
Yep. So this is going to be a end cap summary. This can be the Frostgrave Wizard Awards, where we're going to
Mm.
go through every single wizard. So we previously we had different every lesson. Sorry, in the previous lessons we did every single school, and now we're going to go and kind of summarize all of that, and then rate our top and least top spells from all of those kind of things. So if you were to listen to the deep dives of each wizard school, you'll know that we rated all of the spells and the wizards between F and S. And we did mention that we were doing that at the time, right? And we would revisit all of them and figure out what is truly S tier in terms of all the spells. And that episode is to this episode.
Yeah, I know you handed out more S's than I was, but
Yeah,
I
I'm very
still have
liberal. I love it.
I had more than three S tiers, so it's going to have to get narrowed down at some point. Have I
Mm-hmm.
decided yet? Maybe not. We'll see what your arguments are, or if I narrow you down to those four or a different four.
Sure. So this is the Frostgrave Wizard Awards. Let's start first by introducing the nominees. Every single school, we're going to go talk about them, give a little summary just as a refresher, or like Brandon said, if you are new and just listening to this for the first time, it can give you a little understanding of all the different schools in Frostgrave.
Yep. So we'll give them our ratings again. I think most of our ratings were pretty similar, but we're not going to. The arguments over those ratings are back in each of those schools' episodes.
Yeah. You can hear deep dives. This is more of a summary as we're thinking about it more holistically.
All right.
And also after maybe drinking a little bit too much yesterday. So, first school is Chronomancer. Now, we rated this A or B minus.
Oh, in terms of the overall rating.
Yes, the overall rating. Chronomancer was A or B minus. And
yeah, so
what were the top?
Yeah, so I gave it a B, and you gave it an A minus, I guess?
No.
No?
You gave it an A, and I gave it a B minus.
Okay, so I downgraded. Okay, anyways, we're not going back through all that. Its final rating was a B from me, and your final rating was A?
B.
Okay, all right, sweet. So my top spells from it that I consider, my top spells were Fleet Feet and Time Store.
Yep, Fleet Feet, Time Store, and I liked Time Walk, so Time Walk was my favorite.
Yep. And
all right.
So how I saw this wizard kind of playing, like what stood out, is that you can take Elemental Ball and a Time Store, and you double Fireball on one turn. I'm like, yes. Ooh, who else is going to do this? No, this is crazy.
Super fun.
Cool.
So I think the biggest thing with the Chronomancer that kind of holds it back is, now I'm wondering if actually I voted it A and you voted it B minus. I literally just listened to this earlier today just to catch up, and now I've forgotten. In any case, the entire thing with Chronomancer is you want to build up for a mid-game, like a mid-campaign Chronomancer pop-off where you become super strong. So the reason why it's a little bit weak, as we mentioned before, is that it starts off a little bit weak because Time Store and Time Walk are hard to cast. All right.
And I think you probably play it safe with this wizard. Like you take Wizard Eye, you hide in the back. Maybe you take Mind Control probably too. But like these aren't super powerful up front. This is not like you show up on the battlefield super powerful. You might take a few campaigns to ramp up. So.
Yeah. Sorry. Few missions.
Few missions. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Now the next one is Elementalist. We rated this S or A. So there was like some conversations and split on that.
Yeah, I wasn't willing to hand out any S's right off the top. I think I should be convinced about who's the top, but I gave it an A as well.
Yeah.
All right, top spells. Top spells that I saw were Elemental Ball and Elemental Bolt, which kind of overlaps. You might not take both at once, and then Wall.
Yep, and I think we mentioned Wall is probably their best spell. Super good. How you play with this one is pretty straightforward. You wall off the enemy so that only one, so that you have basically one direction for the combat to happen, and then you fireball that lane. So that's the main way to play Elementalist. Now Wall is so strong you can do a whole bunch of different things. They have good allied schools, but that's the main kind of way you play Elementalist. Straightforward but fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree on like those allied schools. I think the allied schools that you have for Elementalist have really good troop support. Like if you want to be buffing your troops in certain ways and getting them to move around, like for their allied schools, I think Strength, Leap, and Fleet Feet are all available, and those are all like super good support stuff. Great
for holding the line so that you can throw fireballs at it.
Yeah, they try and surround you, and you're like, oh, you surrounded me? It's fireball time. So
yeah. All right. The next one is Enchanter. We also said this was an S/A. There was some debate on that.
Yeah, what pushed it towards an S is I handed out just like I try to be stingy with like ranking spells as A's, but I wasn't stingy at all here. I'm like, for my A spells, I thought would include Embed Enchantment, Enchant Weapon, Grenade, Telekinesis, Strength. Like that's almost all their spells.
Yeah, I rated those a little bit lower. I think I rated Enchant Weapon and Grenade as S. The other ones as A. But yes, very strong school. Definitely was a contender. Also has great allied schools as well.
Yeah, I think the way I'm playing an enchanter right now, and
Mhm.
how I built it was you're basically trying to hand out enchanted magic weapons to your whole war band, bling them out,
Mm-hmm.
sell those weapons maybe early to get better troops. You're just trying to rake in the money and bling out your war
Yeah.
band. Beyond that, I don't. Who cares
Yeah.
what else you do? You're going for maximum bling.
Yeah. So you want to top up your enchanter, basically reach your max power level of your warband earlier than everyone else just by getting all this great equipment.
Yeah. Whatever else you decide to do, yeah, who cares? It's up
Yep.
to you.
All right. Next one is Illusionist. This one we basically both agreed that this was S.
Oh yeah, I lied. I thought I wasn't going to hand out any S's. I have S written right next to this one. Oddly, so for my A rank spells, some of these, okay, maybe it just comes down to some of these spells being super powerful, but my
Mhm.
A ranked spells were Beauty, Fool's Gold, Invisibility, and most of all, Transpose.
Transpose was S.
Yep. Oh,
So
yeah, okay. So I also ranked Transpose as an S. So if you want to, I don't think
yeah.
we mentioned any other S's so far in the previous
Oh,
schools,
we
but
did.
yeah,
We
we did.
did.
Oh, you said S
Uh,
was Grenade?
Elemental Ball was S. Wall was S. And
Yep.
Enchant Weapon we argued was A plus or S, and Grenade was A plus or S as well.
Yeah, okay. We won't we won't debate all those too much. Go
There
listen to the
was an
episodes.
argument. Yeah, you can listen to the episodes. We'll go through later on about what we think are the true S's, but that's
Hmm.
basically how we rated it before.
Yeah. So we both though agreed on Transpose being like S, absolute
An
top tier
S.
spell.
Yes, it's a top tier spell. Being able to
Yep.
move things around, super good. So Illusionist is all about, basically teleportation is the main thing with the Illusionist. So
Yeah.
moving things around, and in a treasure kind of fight that is really strong. Funnily enough, I'm playing Illusionist right now, and I'm struggling a little bit because the campaign we're playing right now is very battle focused. So with it's the Red King, and there's a lot of fighting happening, and not as much just taking treasure and running off, which the Illusionist excels at. And I did not take Mind Control, which is an allied school, because there was too much of that. So there is
Oh, yeah,
some
yeah.
food for
We got
thought
bored of it from
about
previous.
yes. So
Yep.
there is some food for thought about the Illusionist having a whole bunch of strong spells and good support spells, but you could still make a wizard. Even though I took Transpose, you can still make a wizard that can't do things if you don't construct the right spells at the beginning, which I obviously did not. Trying
Yeah,
to be like a special snowflake, it's not working.
yeah, definitely agree. Like the illusionist is a master of like moving the treasure around
Yeah,
around the
making
board.
it off without fighting. But the entire point is you're not supposed to last on the board. You're just supposed to take the treasure and leave, which,
Yeah,
depending on the missions, can be a little bit troubling.
yeah, and I think illusionist is one of the wizards that wants mind control. So you're just completely taking control of like who's holding the treasure, where they're located. Like you go full in, you
Hmm.
take mind control. But I'm glad you're being a special snowflake in this campaign, so I don't get as much competition. So, anyways,
All right. Next one was Necromancer. So this one we rated it as a B. I think this was a solid B, we said. The top spells were a bunch of A's, actually. I don't think we give any S's. Spell Eater, Bones of the Earth, and Raise Zombie.
those are the ones I had too. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, we didn't make any of those S. I think how the necromancer plays, or how we figured would be a good way of playing it, is I don't know if this is the same play style as everybody else, but it might be kind of like the illusionist. But I think with necromancer, you try and tie up their troops by maybe using bones of the earth to like grab someone's leg, summoning in zombies to just tie them up. So you tie them up, then you grab the treasure, and then you run away. Like
Yep.
I I know that should be the plan for everybody, but the necromancer is really just they're not going to killing. Maybe not. Maybe not.
No,
Maybe just
they can push through because Ray Zombie is really strong. So those are all the spells we talked about were like
yep.
not just an A, it was like an A plus kind of level spells. So
Hmm.
yeah, so they're still pretty good.
So
All right. Next one is Sigilist. We considered this a B/A. So you said B, I said A.
Yep.
Yeah. Their strongest spell was Right Scroll.
Wow. That's very out
Right
of game.
Scroll is, yeah. But again, this is one of those casters, I think, or schools that is a campaign school. So it's not going to look that strong on one-offs. But during campaigns, I played the Sigilist basically the last campaign we did, and I found it was really strong, and it got stronger as the game went on, because all of the spells are basically support. So it's basically the go wide school, where it has basically the easiest ability to take whatever kind of spells and kind of make it work with the kind of stuff it has, right? With the power word and right scroll, great kind of support.
Yeah, I absolutely agree about how I think they play. I gave them no, because I'm just injured, you are apparently. I gave them no A spells, but their B spells all extremely solid. Like I gave
Yeah.
their B spells as Absorb Knowledge, Draining Word, Power Word, and Right Scroll. And two of those are out of game. So like you said,
Yeah.
this is extremely strong support because you're doing something else
Yeah.
back in your like wizard's lair
Yeah.
to help out your guys.
Yeah.
And then you just choose something else from a different school that you're going to do in the game. So I think the Sigilist has loads of ways they can play, and then their own spells are just backing up what you're trying to do. So
now I will say, during that episode, I did convince you that Right Scroll was A, even if you're taking it back now.
I have Right Scroll now, and I keep failing to cast it in this campaign. So as of today, I'm still
are you
being
not a
it.
Sigilist?
Oh, whatever.
If you're a Sigilist, you can cast it a lot easier.
I've improved it. Don't worry.
All right. The next one is Soothsayer. So we put this as we waffled on this actually, because there's a lot of different things going on. I think we ended up with it being a B plus.
Yeah, which is
basically
kind of weird.
On the back of one spell.
Yeah, I gave out a bunch of A's and an S, but in the end we concluded it's a B, which I had to go back. No, I didn't go back and listen to, but I had to think this through again. So for the A spells we handed out were Mind Control, which is actually just an S spell. Like
it is the S spell, yeah.
It's the S spell of the game.
Well, not the S spell, the S spell of the Soothsayer.
Yes. And then Reveal Secret, which is out of game, so it's just nice, and then Wizard Eye. So.
Yep. So this is just a mind controller. Like mind control is great, and then you can also do suggestion if you want to follow up. It also has some decent allied schools. So often we've seen mind control and blinding light, or mind control and heal to back up mind control. So I think overall, I think the thing that kind of held Soothsayer back, as I remember, is considering how strong mind control is and how it's just the one thing, especially in a campaign, you can kind of reduce it and instead play the mind control game with allied schools, right? Like the illusionist, like we mentioned, right? Which kind of made the appeal of the Soothsayer, even though they had decent spells outside of that, not quite as strong as the own school, even though mind control is obviously one of the top level spells.
Yeah, because you're kind of okay with having +2 added to your cast of mind control, because they get to try and break out of it. So you want to be rolling a high number anyways. You don't need to.
And you're going to be reducing it, right? So as the game goes on. So if you start at 14, you reduce it to 12, right? 2 levels. That's fine, right? That's not so bad. All right.
Yeah, I think Soothsayer can play pretty. If you like playing a really safe game, you mind control them so you're not risking your own troops. You take Wizard Eye so you're not even looking at the battlefield. If you want to play a really safe game, okay, sure, you can play the Soothsayer, but you might not come out ahead.
Yeah, and you can do mind control, transpose, Wizard Eye, which is actually a pretty good combo.
Yep.
So we ended up with B+. We did feel like the other schools were possibly a little bit stronger. So.
Yes.
All right. Next one is Summoner. We gave this a solid B.
Yes, we did. So the top spells I saw for them were Leap and Possess. And I was questioning whether Leap should be an S tier or not, but we'll get back to that.
Yep. Leap was in the running for one of the S tiers. We said it was top 5. All right. So we might change, now that we've gone through, we might actually change those ratings, but at the time we thought it was a top 5 spell.
Yeah, I only
All
want to
right.
hand out S tier to 3 spells in the end of this podcast. So
Yep. All right. Yeah, so that's why we were wondering if it's A or S. Is it top 3 or top 5? All right. So second last one is the Thaumaturge.
Oh, do you want to mention a bit about how we think
how you play
would
it? Yeah, Demon
play?
Bear. Demons and Demon Bears.
Yeah, if you want to go full on hilarity, yeah.
Yep. So you can either summon demons to allow you to like constantly summon strong monsters, and they kill that, you summon it again, or you buff up a demon bear and you run him up and try to beat the guy down. Those are the main ways we thought you should play summoner.
Yeah, you can basically bring things you don't care about, like you can bring your animal companion bear, you can raise zombies, you can summon demons, and you just throw them at your opponent with no care in the world. I mean, that's a pretty obvious play style, so your opponent might be able
to summoner, so yeah.
Yeah, it's not super high tech play.
All right, but it is fun,
Yeah, it is.
spamming guys, yeah. All right, the next one is Thaumaturge. This one we rated as an A.
I gave it a B.
I listened to the podcast. I'm pretty sure we said A.
Maybe I should have used an eraser on this. Let's go look into my old. Okay,
unless I was
ignore.
Maybe you did say B, and I ignored you and only listened to myself. But I think it was an A.
Okay, well I wrote down B at the very end of it, so maybe I changed my mind even after we talked. But let's see.
Sure.
So the A level spells I handed out were Blinding Light, which I think is definitely a contender for an S tier. Then Dispel and Heal.
Yep. I thought Dispel is actually the S tier. I thought Blinding Light, we talked about it, is weaker than Mind Control. Dispel is arguably better than Mind Control. We'll talk about this spoilers, I guess, for later in the episode. But yeah, so I put in Dispel. I think I rated Blinding Light an A and Heal an A+. So this is more like the Protector school or the Counter Speller school, if you want to think about it in a Magic the Gathering kind of thing, where you just shut down what your opponent is trying to do, and you just advance forward and stop them from escaping with Blinding Light, doing serious damage with Heal, and then any of their major affecting spells, you just dispel it.
Well, I think this is one of the wizards that wants to take Mind Control as well. So either their troops are useless with Blinding Light, they're your troops. It seems like a solid game plan you can hand an A out to, but I feel like if someone did counter properly and took Dispel in school or out of school or anything else, if they just start breaking...
No, I don't think so. I think you're better at it because you have Heal and Dispel and Mind Control. So this is the entire thing. If you take a pure Mind Control faction, I think Thaumaturge is actually better at the Mind Control game than the Soothsayer.
Yeah, I agree.
So the only thing with Soothsayer is you can do Wizard Eye and then cast Mind Control more safely. But Thaumaturge, in terms of actually winning battles, assuming you don't get shot to death, right? And there's some stuff you can do to help that. I think Thaumaturge ends up doing the Mind Control game better. So that's why I rated it an A above Soothsayer.
Maybe one's a B+ for me. We'll see. Okay.
All right.
On to
Last School, The Witch. We rated this an A.
Yes, we did. So I played a witch in the last campaign and made out pretty well, but I'm pretty sure I just got lucky and just got rich. But for the A...
Witch is good.
Yeah. So the A-level spells, I would say, are Animal Companion, Brew Potion, and Fog.
Yep.
Did you add any?
Think I also said... No, I think those are the 3, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other ones are all just solid Bs, which is why everything kind of works out. And it's kind of weird because I feel like Witch, when you look at it on paper, Animal Companion is like an A+ spell, like arguably one of the top level spells. But at the same time, it doesn't seem to have these like game breaking kind of spells, but just everything going together, plus its support schools, makes Witch really, really solid in terms of being able to do a little bit of everything. And really, like, you just have a really strong, flexible game plan with the Witch, right? And so I found it. I don't even know if there's like a gameplay you do besides just play well, right?
Yeah, so like what the Witch's A-level spells are offering you are two super strong out-of-game spells with Animal Companion and Brew Potion. So like you said, you choose what game you're going to play with the Witch beyond those. And like Brew Potion gets you rich by you just selling potions of preservation for 200. So like I said, I ended up rich when I was the Witch, and I don't even know if I was brewing the potions, but like you end up getting
Yeah.
so much
Fog
gear.
is yeah. Fog is also like it was an S tier spell in the first edition, but with the change of the game, we said it was an A tier spell, but it's still a very strong spell and helps you lock things down. So
Yep. So
I
the
think
Witch
the
is
biggest weakness with the Witch is that you can't take a Soothsayer because they're opposed. Two
yeah.
Soothsayer spells.
Yeah, you're not
Damn,
a
you can't
mind
take
control
mind
wizard.
control.
I know you're not a mind
Yeah.
control wizard. So you pick something else to do and just do that really well.
Mhm.
With
Yeah.
which spells backing you up.
Yeah. All right.
So we're
So
gonna
those
try
are all the schools.
so we're gonna try and narrow down these top spells now.
First of all, let's do the bottom three because I always like starting. This is a theme for our
Trash
thing. When we
talking.
rate things,
Just
we want to talk trash talk and do positive, but
all
I don't
right.
want to end on the trash talking. So
Sure.
let's do the awards for worst spells. So the bottom three worst spells.
All
We
right. Do you
didn't
want
want
to
to
go?
just go through everything. We're just going to do the bottom three to stay a little bit more positive and in our negativity.
All right. So I think you have more contenders than I do for these. So do you want to name your
Sure.
contenders first?
Sure. Sure. So, well, I'm just going to name my bottom three. You want to go through the 3, 2, 1? Like I said, I don't want to be too negative and go through all of the spells that I think are hot garbage.
Oh, so you've narrowed down to 3. All right. How about you name yours first?
All right, I'll
I have
name
4.
my third worst. Oh, you want to do? Okay,
I don't have it.
sure.
I don't have this in any particular order.
Bottom
So
bottom 3 with honorable mention. How about that? I do have actually 6. So
oh,
I
you've narrowed
do
it
have-
down. Ooh, okay.
yeah,
All right. Name your 3 first, and then I'll see about this.
4, right?
You want to name 4, and I'll name 4. We narrow it down from there.
Well, first one is the honorable mention of fourth worst spell in the game.
I don't have this in any order, but I can probably. Jeez, I have to go look at these. Okay, fine. My 4th worst is Blink, because there might be something you could do with that spell.
It's on my list.
I think it's a contender because you could do something that might do something or other. I don't know.
So the issue with Blink is more there's other spells that are just so much better and it's so random.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well, you don't know what you're even doing with this. You're like, okay, I'm getting a guy out of combat. Why? Where's he gonna go? Is he gonna be in a better spot, a worse spot? I don't even know.
Yeah.
But you could do.
I
could
agree.
get guys out of combat. Sure, why not?
Yeah, Blink was on my top 6. I think it is number 4.
Okay, good. Oh, wow. Okay.
I was going to say something different, but now that I think about it, you're actually right. It should be number 4.
Okay. Yeah, because it could get you into a worse spot. But maybe it gets you into a worse spot. But what do you want to cast something that can make things worse for you? Anyhow, all right. So on to the other lower 3.
All right. Well, you're not supposed to cast it when it makes it worse for you, but oftentimes
if the guy
it's the spell you want to
cast,
and then you're like, well, there's like a 30% this is going to be worse for me, but there's a 66% or 70% chance it'll be good, and then you cast it, and then it's 30% chance it becomes worse for you. So
you cast it on the guy, and then the guy you were afraid of fighting your guy gets closer to your wizard, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. All right. So that was the honorable mention, right? Mm-hmm. So that's not the top or the bottom 3 spells.
Yeah, that's not the bottom. That's not the bottom of the dumpster. We're gonna go into the bottom of the dumpster.
3 one is Bridge.
Ooh. You've taken Bridge before, so I feel like you're more qualified to talk about that.
This spell is so garbage. I did take it. It costs it's way too high in terms of trying to cast to to actually make it worth it when you're trying to move over a wall. And every single time I've casted it, and it can also disappear one way. So one time I casted it, and I'm like, okay, finally, there's a spot where I can use it. The guys moved around, and then some guys ended up like not still on the bridge, and then it disappeared, and they fell down and took damage. And I was like, oh my god, this spell sucks.
That's fun. Okay.
So terrible, and it's so hard to cast too. Makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, it has corner cases, so I didn't put that trash. All right.
No, it has no corner cases. Never cast it. Don't even bother putting it on list. It literally made my sigil list worse because I had that thing on.
Cool. All right. So I'll just do these in like alphabetical order of the wizard schools. My definite trash list is Destructive Sphere.
Okay. We're doing 3, 2, 1, right?
I
So Destructive Sphere. Sure. Yeah. You can say Destructive Sphere.
Okay. Is that on your list or not? Should I elaborate why is this such hot trash? Like.
Yeah. Elaborate on why it's hot trash, and then well, when I get to them, I'll 2 and 1. I'll tell you.
Because guys have to be within 3 inches of you to attack them with this. Which, if guys are within 3 inches of you, they're like, how many guys are just going to hang out at that range and not be in combat with you, so you can shoot them with a spell? Nobody's going to do this for you. Or do you want to walk up into the middle of a bunch of guys to cast a little spell at them that might just miss them? No. If you're in this situation, you should be running the frick away. You should not be in this situation ever. Okay. So that's mine.
Yep. And then as soon as they engage you, you can't even cast the spell. Yeah, you can't even cast the spell. So what a terrible spell. Like I guess the only time it would come up is if they moved within 3 inches, but not within 1 inch. Or I guess technically if they moved within 1 inch, you can cast it and then try to injure them, and then I don't know.
This corner case doesn't exist. It just doesn't. Okay.
Yes. You're just gonna cast leap in that corner case. Yeah.
Run away.
My second worst one is Destructive Sphere.
Okay, so we've agreed to that. I might have ranked
that was
higher.
My second worst one.
I'm just going alphabetically of schools.
Sure. And what is your number 2 worst spell?
It's Planar Terror.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to read this again. These are spells that you don't really remember because you're just like.
Oh, I remember Planar Terror. It's okay.
Yeah, I think we just said that causing 2 damage to figures is called Who Cares? Why did I bother?
Yeah, but it also kills demons, so it's corner case.
Yeah, it's 2 corner case for me.
It's usable because it both does damage and kills demons.
Wow.
So I think overall, that was actually kind of useful. That's not even in my list.
Okay, I found it 2 corner case for me.
All right. And then do you want to do your last one, or do you want me to do my last one?
I think you should go for did you already name 2?
All right. Yeah, Bridge and Destructive Sphere.
Oh, okay.
And then my one, I assume this is going to be the worst one that we both say is Scattershot.
No, oddly not.
Oh, really? Scattershot is so worthless. It's a +0 attack that you need line of sight within 12. Unlike Destructive Sphere, where at least, you might kill the guy that you explode on. Scattershot, you'll like slap them a couple of times and then do nothing. And it's still a TN 12. You will never cast this. I had this, and back when it was in first edition, we thought that you didn't need line of sight for it. It was still worthless. You didn't kill anyone.
Yeah.
If they're engaged with one of your guys, you might shoot your own guy too to ping them for 3 damage, 2 or 3 damage. It is such a bad spell. It's totally worthless.
Yeah, well, I'm at least like it's more.
And you have to be within 12, so you're not super far away. So you slightly risk. You need line of sight, and you have to be within 12, and then it does nothing even when it goes off.
How many guys are going to be within 12 but not within 9 where they could rush your wizard? Like that's a very small band, so I can see how that's pretty bad.
And not engaged with one of your guys, so that you might accidentally shoot your own guy. The spell sucks.
It is pretty deep into the suck, but I could corner case it when you're getting like totally overwhelmed. I named Circle of Protection as some super hot trash. It's probably not the hottest trash of this 3.
No way, you're crazy.
Nah, it's too small, and you can't even keep it around you.
And
Like
you have to
if
be
you,
close. No, you
you
can lock a
cast,
demon in.
wow, you cast it and you need to go somewhere else. And you're like, oh, now the spell got left behind. Well, crap, the spell's somewhere else, not where I need it anymore.
Yeah, but you can block pathways for greater demons and stuff like that, possessed guys. You can also, if they run up at you, and it's, I believe, 6 inches, right?
No, it's 3 inch diameter. Yeah, it's 6 inches.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. Oh, no, within touch.
Oh, 3 inch diameter. No, it's not 6 inches.
Three
It's
inch
really
diameter.
little weenie thing.
So the thing is, if they run with you run a demon with you, you can use this, and it works on demons and undead. So there's a lot more. I don't think this is useless.
I'd rather have scattershot.
There's a lot of campaigns. No way. No, no. Try scattershot.
I
To
don't
be
want to
fair,
wait.
I've never used Circle of Protection.
Uh-huh.
I have used scattershot, and it is worthless. It's a worthless spell.
Yeah, you should sooner take a bow. Yeah. Your
Yeah,
wizard should
you'd
sooner
rather
have a
shoot with a
bow.
bow, except for 10x, except for with 10x speed. Then you might as well just cast leap or anything, right? It's not going to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Scattershot. Whereas Circle of Protection is super corner case, but it can work. It can lock in a demon.
Yeah. Okay.
It can lock in a demon within 1 inch of you, and then you can walk away, and it can't engage you.
You could live the dream. Anyways, I feel like the
Whereas
dream's...
Destructive Sphere, if it's, well, you can do it with any guy, but if you do not kill them with your Destructive Sphere and they're within 1 inch, you cannot walk away.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Circle of Protection is actually better than Destructive Sphere.
Okay.
Which, to be fair, you did say they're not in order, so.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right,
Those
better
are
spells.
Wow, that was a lot more spirited than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now let's get to the hottest, what do you call it? Awards for the best spells. So I'm gonna go through and talk about the all the top spells that we considered were S, and then we'll go through again top 4. So honorable mention and then top 3 spells. Did you order these ones or top 3?
No.
All right. Man, you're so against ordering them. All right. Get off the pot. Make your decision about which one is better. These are award ceremonies. You're going to go and be like at the Oscars. You're like, no, everyone's a winner. Everyone nominated as the top is a winner. No, you got to choose one that's the best. At least choose the one that you think is the best spell.
Yeah. I think I know.
All right.
I know what this one
Sure.
is.
Sure. So I'm going to go through and all the ones that we even considered were S tier. And as of now, we probably don't think all of these are S tier because technically we're only supposed to choose 3. But the possible S tier spells that we talked about were Elemental Ball, Wall. I didn't put these in order. Dispel, Grenade, Leap, Mind Control, Enchant Weapon, and Transpose.
Mm-hmm.
Those were all the spells that we talked about possibly being S tier, which is top 3. Obviously, considering that's a lot of spells, obviously that's not true. Even top 5 is not true. But, all right. Do you want to go for your honorable mention, your 4th slot that didn't get into the S tier?
Yeah, I think how I would rank, how I can sort of sort these out in order is by gauging the level of rage it causes in either your opponents or yourself when these spells are used. So I think this is more of a feeling thing, not an actual technical analysis of how they perform and the percentage increase in treasure you get. I'm just using the rage meter on these.
Sure.
So I think it's a valid thing to do.
No, that's so. For me, I was just the things that I think overall make the most impact. So I think my list would be slightly different for rage meter, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, impact in getting you more treasure is different than just rage, because rage is like immediate problems versus like long-term planning. But
sure.
So staying away from long-term planning, I think my honorable mention is then blinding light.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
you're pretty
because of
upset
how
about.
often it made you angry.
Well,
It's
because
funny,
it's
when we talked about this, I
mostly
guess
not.
technically you did what this is a little bit biased. I didn't mention Blinding Light, but you did consider it an S spell, and I was like, it's not an S spell, so I didn't put it on this. But yes, Blinding Light was supposed to be there too.
Yeah, you can go listen to the Thaumaturge episode about why
Yep.
we think
And
Blinding Light is
technically
just
for you, Elemental Bolt, we talked about it being S, but I didn't
yeah.
include that because during the episode we didn't end up with it being an S tier. But okay.
Yeah, Elemental Ball, I think, right? Not Bolt. We consider it a bit better of the two.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Just all right. So that was my honorable mention.
All right. This might surprise some people, but my honorable mention, so this is my fourth strongest spell in the game, I think is Dispel. So this spell in certain games, this will be the best spell that you can have because it just shuts down your opponent's game plan. But at the same time, it doesn't actively make your game plan better. So if you're playing certain warbands that don't require really strong spells to work, then Dispel is not that strong. So it's kind of like hard counter.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really good hard counters it does. So to me, it rated at number 4. But because it won't win you the game by itself, it only reaches the number 4 slot. But it might be the most one of the most range-inducing spells.
Yeah, I can definitely see if you're playing tactically, it has huge use, possibly more use than Blinding Light. But Light ranks higher in Rage. So,
Sure.
all right.
All right.
Should I go for my number 3?
Sure. Go for it.
All right. I want to put Leap in here as my number 3.
Wow. It's a very
Oh,
different list
shit.
than mine.
Because that actually involves playing tactically a little, maybe. Because you're getting your guys
It's
out,
fine.
or you're dropping a guy in where they
Yep.
don't think they're going to jump in and latch onto the guy.
Sure.
So
Wow, we
I
have
like
a
Leap.
very different top 3. That's awesome. All right.
All right.
So Leap. Just because it induces rage because you think you got the guy and then they leap the guy out.
Or they leap a guy towards your guy who's running off the treasure by himself. They move up, and then they get leapt over a wall where they don't think there's any way to get past the wall, and now you're on their dude with your bear, and they're like, no! And you're like, yes, the bear is going to maul you.
All right. My number 3 is Mind Control. Now,
We're going very different here. Okay.
yeah, so Mind Control, I think, is obviously can be very range-inducing, taking your guys, but there's a couple of things that I've seen, especially changing from the first one, that has made it not nearly as bad. You can't walk off with a treasure with the guy who's mind-controlled. You cannot, Dispel is a lot more used now, and at least in our things, which is kind of a hard counter to Mind Control. And the guy can constantly test every round. So even though it can often be a 2-for-1, I've found it not as crazy rage-inducing as it was in the first edition. But it is obviously, this is a top 3 spell, right? It's just, it's surprising because I feel like it's the number 3. But again, all 3 of these spells are really, really strong that I'm going to mention. So I could see someone argue, Mind Control is number 1, but for me, the way that from all the games we've played in second edition, I think Mind Control is just number 3.
Okay, well, I think for a number 2, then you've convinced me that Mind Control should be number 2.
All right. You want to do any more explanations why it made the number 2 slot versus it's just like a better Blinding Light?
Yeah, and as you said, it doesn't necessarily get you the treasure because the guy is still in the position if they picked a treasure and they go back, then you take the guy, then you still have to kind of bring the treasure over to you and they might break out, so it could be a liability when they bring the guy back. But taking their guy who has a treasure picked up and then fighting their own guys with it is just insanely powerful. Anyhow, it's insanely powerful because you have one more guy, they have one less guy. It's insanely powerful. Yeah, it's almost too powerful. I don't know if this.
Yeah, it's really swingy. The only thing is, people shake it off. People do shake it off at 14. It does make willpower a lot more important for your guys. So arguably makes barbarians slightly better because they have 1 or 2 more will than the other really good elite guys. So, there's things. All right. My number 2, and this is probably going to also surprise you in where it's slot. I don't think the spell is going to surprise you, but the fact that it's the runner-up, not the number 1, is transpose. Transpose, we've talked all the time about it being the most powerful spell in the game.
Yep.
But I've kind of, I don't think it's necessarily, it is maybe the most tilting spell in the game. That I will probably agree. But I don't think it's actually the most powerful. Now, we've talked about it. It's the second most powerful. Oh, well, right? But the fact that you can swap guys around, of course, it's super strong. So it's definitely tilting. You can use it against monsters to swap your monster with a guy, so that they're, instead of fighting your guy with the treasure, they're fighting a monster, which is ridiculous. The fact that you don't have to
you have to defeat the monster. You could just hand the monster over to somebody else. Yeah.
They don't need, the monsters don't even test willpower, which I don't know what that rule is about. And technically we house ruled it so that the monsters get to test, right? But I do think, well, it's the number 2. It just didn't quite make the top number 1 for me.
Yeah, well, you can kind of guess what my number 1 will be because I haven't mentioned transpose already. So I put it as number 1, just because it's very rage-inducing and it actually gets you treasure.
So
in the moment, it's rage-inducing. Later, like late game getting treasure, you win because you set it up so they take a risk to get a treasure in the middle of the board, and you're like, oh yeah, that treasure on my side of the board now, and here, have my dog. You're like,
yes, and now their one guy with the treasure is surrounded by 3 of your guys, and you're like, okay, you thought you were gonna escape? No.
You thought you like played really hard to get this treasure in the middle and fought your way through. Oh, that work is ruined on you. That's why it's so rage. It's just so rage-inducing.
And one of the crazy things also, transpose is one of the reasons why I think Dispel doesn't make top 3. Because transpose, so mind control gets countered by Dispel. Transpose does not get countered by Dispel. If you are fighting a transpose army and you just have Dispel as your strongest spell, you will lose. You basically have a dead spell, and they have one of the best spells in the game.
Yeah, and you might not be able to transpose it back, even if you have transpose, because the guys might be too far away. So, it's...
Oh, and then they move the guy. Yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Great spell. I could, like I said, we've talked about this being the strongest spell in the game, especially with treasures. But at the same time, when you're doing games that are more killy, so missions that are more killy, transpose is not as good, right? Like we talked about mind control. Mind control will swing the battle towards you. You can even use it against monsters, so it can really help with killing missions, especially against campaign missions, right? Mind control is still very much a strong spell. Transpose does not become as useful when you're doing that. So that's one of the things that is possible, but it's also one of those spells that is very different from a lot of other spells that is just so strong. So yeah. Number 2. Well, my number 1, I'm surprised you didn't have this on your list, is Wall.
I take it all the time. I know. I didn't put it on the list.
I think Wall is the strongest spell in the game. It is useful in defense, it is useful in offense, and it reaches out so far. And it is the only spell that I feel like it's a typo, where it stays on the board, but you don't have to test the first turn.
Yeah, so I think
almost assuredly that is like a typo from the old one, right? Because all the other spells were changed so that the first turn after you cast it, it disappears. Wall, it does not go away. It lasts at least 2 turns, which is crazy good. It blocks off people from getting around, right? From having line of sight as well. So for all of these super strong spells, it blocks that off. It can trap people. right? So you can create a wall to trap someone in a certain spot, right? If they're in a bad spot, and then be shut off from your support, from wizards and stuff helping. It is just crazy. And then it can protect your wizard. Like you have a monster. Oh, if you have someone within 1 inch of you, you can put up a wall and then walk away. So it's even better than Destructive Spear, and it's only a 10. This spell is ridiculous in terms of the change that it does on the board, both defensively, offensively, and it reaches out way too far. So
yeah, I think because fog exists, so I see there as being like an alternative way to block those lines of sight off.
Yep.
I'm like, well, okay, I don't have to have this wall because fog exists. But if fog didn't exist, I would probably rank wall much higher because you'd be like, no, this is the only way to get
wall
this
is
ability.
So much stronger than fog that I think, just like how you put mind control and blinding light on the list, I didn't put fog in because I think fog's a lot weaker, but I think wall is the strongest.
Yeah, fog has different play abilities where you can put the fog up to block their shooting and their mind controlling of your troops. Then you advance and then you jump through the wall and it doesn't penalize your movement. So fog
wall,
it's a different way of playing, but it basically like cuts off the line of view.
Yeah, it's so strong. It's so strong where you get to shape the battlefield. You can even cut off transpose technically with wall.
Yep. Yeah, because they don't see it, they can't affect it. So, but it's just because fog exists. Like if it didn't exist, I'd be like, yeah, top 3, easy.
No, I think you're wrong. I think even though it exists, it is definitely top 3. Obviously, I did. I put it as the top spell in the game. Yeah. And the way that you play, I think it is the top spell in the game. I think there's some favoritism trying to stop it from getting the nerf bat. By the way, all of the top 3 that we listed, wall, transpose, and grenade are the spells that we actually house ruled to change them. Because we did not change mind control, even though it is arguably the top spell in the game. We did not think it is so overpowered it needs to change. But transpose and wall, we did change some of the rules to make it less rage-inducing and broken. So for us, we make wall have to roll the very first round, and for transpose, every monster you still have to roll the willpower roll to move a monster. So those are 2 big nerfs for transpose and wall.
Yeah, no, I consider fog or wall like an essential. Whichever wizard you're building, you better have one of those if you you don't want to get your butt kicked.
So it can't be an S, it's just one of the things. It's just like having fight.
Yeah, it's like and sharing. So
it's not an S tier. It is just like it's like a limb that you should always have. So
yeah, basically. But you have 2 of them to choose from. Swap out 2 different right arms.
Yeah. All right, so those are the top spells that we've gone through over the entire game. Now, for the best and worst wizard schools. This one, I think we've mentioned that every wizard school, because you share so many spells, as we've talked about many times, it doesn't mean that even the worst wizard school is unplayable. But given that, what do you think is the worst wizard school?
Oh man, I ranked everything like A's and B's. It would have been easy. Oh no, we did an S tier, but it would have been easier if we just handed out a C in the middle of this. But we didn't hand out any C's, so we're basically saying who's.
Yep.
Yeah, you can share spells around, but who is
worst does not mean bad. Worst means just the one on the bottom.
Yeah, like a B is not a failure.
Yeah.
There's no F wizards here from our perspective. Ooh, I'm going for Necromancer almost.
Wow.
I know.
Necromancer is so solid, and it is the worst in your opinion. No, there's no wrong answer.
That's why I feel bad about this. But I'm like, who would I put
someone
lower?
Has to be the worst. Someone.
I'm looking around who could be lower, and I don't know if there is.
All right, for me, it was the Chronomancer. The issue, even though the Chronomancer can end up a lot higher, there's a couple of things. They start, in my opinion, at the lowest level. Yep. And a lot of people just play lower levels. And I feel like even when they get superpowered, right, being able to time walk or time store, uh, this is one of those fun things. I feel like it's not necessarily that fun to cast 2 spells, especially 2 fireballs. I don't know. It I, you can definitely, it can be, I guess it's not really my play style. And having such a weak start, no man.
So I was close to agreeing with you
Necromancer is so much more fun.
I was close to agreeing with you before I started recording, but I think I'm going to build a Chronomancer next, and I've already bought all the miniatures for it and come up with the spells. So I can't be like, yeah, this is the trash. So
more favoritism. First Wall and now Necromancer.
Yeah, I don't know if I played Necromancer before or not, but I feel like I'm going to play my Chronomancer a lot like a Necromancer.
Slide in because, yeah. All right, fair enough.
Yeah. No, I love the Necromancer spells, but...
Yeah. All right. So now for the best wizards schools. So I'll list the top 5 that we had. Were Elementalist, Enchanter, Illusionist, Thaumaturge, and Witch.
Mm-hmm.
Those were ones when we rated it. They were the top levels. Of course, we can change now, but those were the top at the time.
All right, so I think we both rated the Illusionist as just like the S tier.
Oh, going straight to the top? No.
Yeah.
That's what we said. Let's go for 3, 2,
and
1.
No. We've said multiple times already this episode. We'll start at the top and be
this time we'll do the top.
Clearly, there's no argument for this one, or we didn't argue during the past episodes.
All of their spells are so strong, and Soothsayer is you can take mind control as well. So just taking illusionist spells and mind control basically makes them really, really balanced. So
there are a variety of A tier spells. They have a nice wide variety of them.
So many of the S tier spells that you can take.
They all do different sorts of things too. It's just
and the big thing I find with Illusionist is when you get tomes of Illusionist, all your spells are amazing.
Yeah.
So even though it's not like Chronomancer where you're just lowering things to make your guy pop off, whenever you get a new spell with Illusionist, you're like, oh, more possibilities of broken stuff.
Yeah.
Also, you also have the Thaumaturge, so you can literally do one of the trifectas of Dispel, Mind Control, and Transpose.
Yeah, exactly. You're just playing with all
which is a
tier
really,
toys.
really strong thing. So Dispel, you can counter anything that they do really strong. I guess Fireball, right? So if they have walls, you can Dispel Wall, which is right, and then you can. The only thing you really worry about is Fireball.
Yeah,
because
I was looking
Elemental Ball.
Yeah, because I was looking at how sort of those top spells of like Mind Control, Blinding Light, and Transpose, who gets to take all 3 of those as like theirs or aligned, and it's the Soothsayer, the Thaumaturge, the Illusionist, and kind of the Sigilist can also do it too, because Mind Control being high is fine. So all those ones have access to those super powerful spells, but we've got to narrow it down from here.
All right, so Illusionist, clear number 1 because of its clear alignments and powerful list of spells, but in our opinion, of course. But I guess that we're going to be talking about or wondering about is number 2 and 3.
Yeah, so I handed out A's to help this narrow down to the Elementalist, the Enchanter, and the Witch after this, which means I need to narrow this down to 2 of those. How many A's did you hand out?
That was the same thing. We handed out 5.
Yeah, okay. I thought you gave one.
I handed it out to the Sigilist as well, but I think the Sigilist is below it. I was like B or A.
Yeah.
But I think it probably ends up B overall.
Mm-hmm.
Because just when you compare it to the other ones.
Okay. Should we just name the weakest out of those 3 and be like your cut? Then we can go on to 3 and 2.
Sure.
Looking at the top spells, oh my god! But you ranked Wall the top spell. What am I going to do here? I'm putting Elementalists as as below the other two. So out of
I put the
Elementalist,
Witch
Enchanter,
as below the
Witch.
other two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see
Thaumaturge, by
that.
the way, I do think is number 5. I think Thaumaturge is the second best. Well, it's the best at the mind control
Huh?
game.
Yeah.
I think it's better than Soothsayer, but that was number 5.
Yeah. So the Witch I played last time, and the out of game is just so
No,
amazing.
it is strong. It
And
is
you
great.
take off just such a fast start when you summon bears in, and you just
Yeah.
beat your opponent's guys to death.
Yep.
So I
It's
don't know.
got
I
lasting
rank.
power. All of its spells, when you get them, are useful.
Yeah.
So when you get it's kind of like the Illusionist. I feel like where every every book you get, I guess Illusionist technically has that one spell that's garbage, Blink, but uh, the Witch does every single time you get a Witch Tome, you're like, yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, like trying to compare the Elementalist to the Witch. Like the Elementalist spells when you cast them in the game are better.
Mhm.
But because the Witch is doing things out of game, I feel like I'm just ahead of the game before I
Sure.
step on the board. So that's my
And
perspective.
you also, yeah, a lot of the spells are easier to cast. So you start, well, and especially when they're out of the game, you
Hmm.
generally in the first 3 games you're probably going to be ahead,
Yeah.
and maybe that can kind of, sorry, yeah,
So are you willing to put the Elementalist below the Witch?
no,
No? Okay. All right. So we have different top threes then.
yep,
Okay. So I think
all
then
right,
that basically I then from that point obviously see the Witch as number three then.
okay. Well, I see the Enchanter as
Mhm.
number 3.
Mhm.
Enchanter obviously really strong, has all of these great spells that you can get if you combo off the Enchanter. There's basically the two sides, right? You can either combo off the constructs, which technically can be strong but very expensive, and you need to play a long game to get it to be good,
Yeah.
or the treasure thing, which is technically also a longer
Yep.
game thing,
Hmm.
which is good. But I feel like there is, like we talked about, a more of a ceiling on the Enchanter, although it does have Grenade, which is an amazing spell. We also classified that as an S tier, which we did nerf as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, to make it 12 inches. So there's an argument that Enchanter is just overall, all your guys are super buff, and then you also have Grenade and spamming Grenade. It can be really strong, and but um, I still just put it. I don't know. It's top 3, so it's not bad,
Hmm.
right? I can
Yep.
only tell you why. I think it is. Well, when I get to the last one, which we all know what it is, why it's not number 2, but I do think it is still overall stronger than the Witch because it also has a strong start, and then yeah, Grenade is just a great spell. So yeah, it can keep up with the Witch, and then you're also spamming Grenade. So
Yeah, so I agree it's a bit above the Witch, so that's why I put it at my number two. I'm currently playing it now as well, which I don't know if that makes
mhm.
me biased in saying is good or being like, yeah, it's just okay. It's actually my skill that's why I'm ahead of you guys,
Hey
not the
man,
fact that I keep enchanting weapons and just having all this bling around.
I
It's me.
am playing the Illusionist right now, which is the
Mhm.
our hands down strongest school that we said, and I'm getting my ass kicked. So
Mhm.
clearly,
So clearly,
it is not
Frost.
me. Clearly, I
What?
am not a good player.
Yeah. Frostgrave is just a game of skill, not about rolling up really
Yeah,
good stuff
yeah.
after the game. Clearly, it's all
Apparently,
tactics.
apparently, I should have
Tactics.
chosen better schools and played better. But whatever. I
Yes.
feel like, considering how many games we play, I'm just trying more wild stuff. So I still, yeah, doesn't
But
really factor in for me, I guess.
maybe that's why I'm willing to go Chronomancer in the future. Be like, nah, can make this work somehow.
Yes, exactly. We know it works, right? We've had other people play it, but
Mhm.
how well? I guess you can tune it up to an S tier. I don't think so. Maybe you could tune it up to be A. See
Yeah,
see if you can make it as good enough to be an A.
yeah. I just see the Enchanter being good early in a campaign, good late in the campaign.
Mhm.
So, like early in the game, you have access to pretty powerful spells, and you can get magical weapons on your guys. Like in the first few games, then late in the game,
Mhm.
you're selling the weapons and buying the cool stuff from the shop. So
Yep.
I see just good all the way through.
All
You,
right. Well, my last one, I gotta Number two, right behind the illusionist, the most powerful school in the game, is the elementalist.
Uh-huh.
I really just think fireball and wall are that strong.
Yeah, well, I said too, like when we talked about it, that it has really good support for your troops too.
Yep,
Like you buff them with strength, leap, and fleet feet. Like
yep,
that's huge.
yep.
You can do like
Chronomancer, I
you
think,
can
is
do
a
everything
weak
on them.
allied school, but it does have that one good spell, feat. So you just take that as
Yep.
your elementalist, and then you just use enchanter, which is a top three school, and then you throw those fireballs at walls. Very straightforward, but very very strong. And if you don't even have to play it straightforward, because like I said, I think wall is the best spell in the game,
Hmm.
which is probably influences a lot about why I think the elementalist is uh, number two, because of
It's
how
weird.
strong wall is.
It's weird because we've talked this whole time about how amazing it is, like mind control people and transpose people, and yet the number two is like, yeah, you're not doing that. You're doing something else to come in number two.
Well, technically, illusionist is, you're taking mind control. You should take mind control when you play an illusionist if you want just the strongest illusionist, right?
Oh yeah, we said that's the highest level of play is that, but then the
Uh,
second level, oddly, number two is like, no, you don't actually
yeah,
do that.
there's a
Okay.
lot of good spells. That's the kind of
Hmm.
thing, right? Like I didn't even put mind control as my top spell. Only third,
Uh-huh.
third best spell. So, uh, yeah, I guess my top schools are actually related to, it does revolve around the access to the top best spells, right? And you
Yeah.
don't need mind control if you have a whole bunch of the other ones like elemental ball and wall. So,
Hmm.
all right. Well, those are the best schools and best spells. And that is the rundown of this kind of Frostgrave 101. But we've got a couple of other kind of bonus ratings for a bunch of other smaller kind of things to round out this episode that we wanted to mention, um, that are important for building a warband. And the first one of these ones is uh, the best units. So, although obviously wizards are the most important, you need cannon fodder in front so you can cast your spells.
Yes, you do.
So, what are your top three units?
So I think I've got to name some specialist soldiers and some not specialist soldiers because you can't
Sure.
take all specialist soldiers. But my top soldier of all time is the Ranger, I think.
Yep, number one for sure. It has everything.
It has plus two, like has still has plus two fight. It has shooting, but it also has plus two fight.
Has a normal sword too, so you can
A real hand
still.
weapon, so you're not doing
Yep,
shit damage. Yeah.
yep. So it can still
And
finish people off.
speed seven, because
Yep,
if you don't feel like standing there, you can run really fast to get treasure.
yep,
It has so much going for it.
yep. Yeah, I think overall, definitely it's the strongest. It also does it not have two will too? Yeah, it
Oh,
has two
maybe.
will.
Yeah.
So it even helps against getting mind controlled. It's just the
Yeah,
best.
yeah, like treasure hunters have plus three fight, which is their and no bow, and you're like,
Yeah.
but why would I take one more fight? Which, to be fair, I just took a treasure
No,
hunter.
treasure hunters are good as well,
Yeah, they're good, but like
but not the
giving up that
best.
bow is hard for that
Yes,
extra fight.
which means
Which
you
I mean,
can move up, shoot, and then sweep in at later on and get the treasure and move off. They're great at outlasting your opponent.
yeah. So to be fair though, I just paid for a treasure hunter for the next round in our campaign, but that's only because I ran out of models with bows. I'm like, oh, I'm not painting another model with a bow.
All right. Definitely number one. What are your two and three? So Ranger is, I feel like, S tier.
Yeah, so
It
let's
is.
go with
Yeah.
another special soldier, which I want to name the Templar after that.
Yep. I think it's
Yeah.
the next best one.
Is it speed
It's
five or
the
six?
opposite. It's just the best at killing things in close combat and
Hmm.
lasting, right? So the knight actually technically lasts better, but just the extra +2 damage for the Templar means that statistically speaking, the Templar is the best at fighting in the game. They will beat a knight.
Yeah, because if you're trying to put up damage buffs on things, you're like, oh
Yep.
yeah, our damage levels are going to get nice
Yep.
and high and one shot people here. potentially.
Templars have the highest chance of winning any combat of all of the things because of their profiles. So, totally solid. If you want that killer, you want that beater to kill the guy's bears and stuff like that, take your Templars, and then you can get great special equipment.
Yep.
All right. And before we do the last one, I do want to mention that I don't think we really included the bonus. You didn't include the ones from like expansions and stuff, right?
Some of those are broken, so like
technically the Vampire Hunter, if we really want to save with everything, is the strongest unit in the game. But we literally banned it. It was so strong. It's in the new book. It is ridiculously overpowered. We literally banned it from the game.
Yeah,
and we didn't include Bear because technically that's like a spell that you have to put into the warband.
Yes. Yeah, it's free.
But
like,
yes,
free for its profile is really good, but you can't just like pick it off the list. And then we would also say you should not be able to pick like the Vampire Hunter. It's so good.
Vampire
it's bad
Hunter
for the game.
Clearly,
So you should ban that.
It's broken. It's exactly. It's not S tier. It's F tier because it ruins the game. Makes it unplayable if everyone just runs 4 Vampire Hunters. All right. Then the last unit.
So I want to name Infantryman, even though I'm not taking as many this round, because more damage is more good.
So it's like the mini Templar basically for cheaper, and you can take them while not taking Ranger slots, basically.
Yeah, exactly. If you're like, I need to take, okay, I've taken my shooting. All right, I want to dish out some damage here. Yeah, let's go with some Infantrymen.
All right. So my last one is also a regular soldier or a standard soldier, and it's the Apothecary. 5 health makes your wizard cast better. Now you're not going to spam the Apothecary, right? Maybe 2 Apothecaries make sense, but you're not going to take 4 Apothecaries. But 1 or 2 Apothecaries, they help your wizard cast their spells, right? So you cast it, and the Apothecary heals them, pours the little potion into their mouth after they finish their spell, and then he runs up and gets the closest treasure, right? So 1 Apothecary I feel like is a must-have for every warband. So I feel like it is. I actually would rate it above the Templar.
Yeah,
so I'd say Ranger, Apothecary, and Templar.
Yeah, I was looking at building my Chronomancer, and like, I think I need to be taking Apothecaries for this because might be starting out on a shitty weak foot. And it's just, if you intend to cast spells that you need to hit high thresholds on, you're like, okay, I need the Apothecary here. So not everybody needs that. Certain people just have like low cost spells, and you're like, yeah, whatever, I'll get it off. But when you're pushing for some hard spells that have high casts early in the game, Apothecary, amazing.
Yeah. Also, if your wizard gets shot or your knight gets shot, you can pour that potion in. So just overall great. Oh, and I think we mentioned this before, but if you take a witch and you get that strength potion, the Apothecary feeds that strength potion into the bear's mouth.
Yeah, hilarious.
Love it. All right. So those are the top 3 units that we considered, and the next award is scariest monster. So what are the 3 most scary monsters? Let's go for bottom this time. So what is the 3rd most scary monster you see when they pop up? And there's a lot of different ways you can say it. Not necessarily just.
I'm gonna go with the Banshee. Not necessarily how much health and damage they have, but like how many problems they cause you.
Yeah, and so this is not just like the guy with the best stats, right? It is the one that, how often it shows up, what it does, whether you're prepared for it, all these kind of things factor in.
Yeah, I'll go with the We're going off the Frostgrave 2nd edition bestiary, because obviously there's some crazy stuff in some other books. But the Banshee, I feel like has to be mentioned because you need magic weapon. Oh, the vampires. The Banshee just hurts everybody around. Oh, the Wraith. Yeah, the Wraith is the one that just screams at everything around it.
No. The Wraith is the one that is. There's no the Banshee's from the expansion.
Well then.
The Wraith is the one that you're talking about. That's just fight 2, 10 health, and you need magical weapons to kill it. Yeah. And is literally one of the things in one of the beginner missions. I think the 2nd beginner mission.
Yeah.
You have a whole bunch of Wraiths.
Yeah, just to teach you how this goes. Teach you how much you suck. So yeah, I want that one on the list.
All right, so that's your number 3?
Yeah, sure.
All right. My number 3 is the Greater Demon.
Mm-hmm.
So these guys are just big, massive, and one of the great things about them is there are so many good models for Greater Demons.
Yeah.
So when they show up, it's it's a good it's a good scary time when they just kind of walk through your guys just because they have like that high fight, right? That 5 fight and then also strong. So I really enjoy them, and they're they still move fast as well, which makes them quite scary.
Yeah.
And high will, so a lot of spells don't work on them. Yeah.
Yeah, I would name that as my number 2. Just it's a big scary.
All right. My number 2 is the Vampire. So Vampire, yep.
It
Vampire
takes
is
half
even
damage.
faster. No, it's immune to
No.
normal weapons.
Oh my god, it's completely immune. I thought it was like one of those half
Yeah.
damage ones.
No.
Yeah.
It's even faster than a Greater
Jeez.
Demon, but it only has 4 fight. But it is almost, in some ways, it is even more strong than a Greater Demon, right? Or more tough, because normal weapons don't even hurt it.
Mm-hmm.
But and it's faster, and it's also immune to mind control.
Well then,
So
yeah.
you have to use control undead to control it. So great, very, very scary, scarier than a demon, just because it's unkillable to your normal guys.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same, yeah, I guess it's number 2, so it's the most scary thing to show up.
Yeah. I was actually thinking of Rangers of Shadow Deep first, where things actually just take half damage. I'm like, oh yeah, that's not a thing in regular Frostgraves. So I think I would actually name the Vampire instead of the Wraith as my number 3 because it's actually fully immune. Then for the number 1, which one of the giant worm, and I know, does the giant worm move 4 or 6?
The giant worm moves 7.
Holy shit. Yeah, because it's one of the big scaries, and so is the Frost Giant. The Frost Giant is slow.
Frost Giant is move 6.
Oh,
Frost Giant is technically the craziest profile. It has fight 5, armor. Yep. I'm just looking here now. I just flipped to it. Armor 15 and health 25 with will of 4.
Jeez. Yep.
And it's
okay.
strong.
I thought it moved slower, but you're telling me now it moves 6?
Yep.
Jeez. Okay, that's the top. That's freaking.
So here's the thing with the Frost Giant that I didn't put it on top, and I didn't even put it on the top 3 list. It's a lot harder to show up. There's a lot of missions where you see. I do think it is definitely the most invincible thing on the board, but the thing that makes it almost less scary than a vampire and a demon is you don't even bother to fight a Frost Giant because it's so strong, right? So although you can, it can be scary if it gets mind controlled, but it is so strong, everyone just runs away from it and sacrifices things. So it becomes more like a force of nature that you kind of just work around. Whereas the vampire and the demon give you enough hope that you can beat it, that you might make the wrong decision and try to fight it, and then be unlucky and die. So I actually think the vampire and demon are scarier, because like the whole thing with like the vampire is you have a couple magic weapons, you're like, and some spells. You're like, okay, I'll stay. I think I can beat it. And then you damage it a bunch, and then the vampire kills your last magical weapon, and then you're like, oh, well now I can't kill it. So it becomes scarier just because it gives you the rope to hang yourself, whereas you would never try to beat a Frost Giant.
Maybe I'm crazy,
never, but it's
just
crazy to try to beat up a Frost Giant. The only thing you do is mind control a Frost Giant, or blinding light or something like that, right?
Are you crazy enough to give your wizard +5 fight in a 2-handed magical weapon?
No, against a Frost Giant to fit it up.
I mean, that's what my wizard
still, so you still are beating him for a long period of time just to kill him.
Yeah, well, I might be crazy enough to try it. That's the problem.
All right, fair enough. That would be scarier, yeah. Well, my number 1, if it's not the Frost Giant, it is the Wraith, because like I foreshadowed at the beginning, it shows up all the time,
yeah,
and especially at the very beginning, This is the first scary monster that you fight, and especially if you just started playing Frostgrave and you didn't know about the importance of magical weapons sometimes, the wraiths are unkillable. You won't be able to kill them, and all you're doing is pushing them away, which is to hold them back while you try to gain the treasures, right? And this is, starting level warband issues, right? Because the more the game goes on, the more magical equipment goes on, the less scary it is. But every time you start a new campaign, everyone is afraid of wraiths. So in terms of number of games where someone is scared of a monster, wraith is the number one of all the monsters.
Yeah, I think I might just be skewed from our last campaign that we played for a good 12 missions. And I think my apprentice killed 3 wraiths. She's just like... That's because she had plus maximum fight, a magic weapon, plus a fate stone. So maybe I was a bit skewed. That's what it takes to kill a wraith with any security.
So it's made you think little of the wraiths.
It's made me complacent, having like maxed out everything.
We'll see when you play your Chronomancer, and if we end up playing that intro mission with the wraith spawning at every treasure, if it can put the fear of God in you again.
I have no plan of that for that.
Yep.
I send a zombie to go fight it and be like, "Bye, zombie. Bye." I'll cast another one of you.
That's the thing.
I can't.
All right. Well,
do we want to talk
damage?
Oh, are they like a toad? I don't know.
Yes, energy drain.
Oh wow.
So energy drain. Wraiths do double damage.
Amazing.
Vampires do not.
That's pretty scary. Anyhow.
All right.
So, our last thing we want to go over?
Yes. So we've talked a lot about, when you're trying to play, the different schools, what is good, what's not, trying to optimize the existence, stuff like that. Well, we want to end off with the last award, which is in some ways the most important when you want to get into the game. Well, not when you want to get in the game. When you really get into the game and you want to have the most fun, you
don't want to do a top 3 for this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. We'll do it.
This is the most important topic I meant.
Sure.
Yes. It is the best expansion books for Frostgrave. So this game is a very campaign-heavy game, very thematic, and there's a lot of stuff after you've learned how to play, built your warbands, that what do you want to buy? What's the next thing you want to buy to bring up your game to the next level?
Mm-hmm.
As you know, we have a severe addiction to miniature games, so of course the most important is what's next to buy.
All right, this is one where I don't feel like I should be going from the bottom up, but we said we're going from the bottom up, right?
Yes, yeah, of course.
All right, so the expansion book I would name as number 3, which doesn't mean it's the one you should buy first, even though we're mentioning it first, is Into the Wilds. And
Into the Wilds, interesting.
Why? Is because it lets you play a bit differently. So it gives you more like things you can model, different troops you can bring. It's a different way of playing. So it's definitely not the one you should start with. But like after you've played these other 2, you should probably give it a try. And because it's only 6 missions long, that you can kind of mix it in with some of the core book stuff, mix it in with some of the smaller expansions things. So maybe do a few of the core book ones, go off into the wilds, come back for another 2 missions somewhere else. It lets you, it seems like a really good package to mix and mash around.
Yeah, it's literally made to mix and match, where there's a bunch of core rules that you can throw in. Like you said, like you play the missions in that book, and then you play with the Wilds rules with the core book, and it helps change up your gameplay. I agree. It's a great fun book when you want to expand things out. For me, in a similar way, that's why I chose my number 3, and that is Ulterior Motives. So Ulterior Motives is another, like in a similar way, it's an expansion to the way that you play normally. It's the bunch of cards that, I think we mentioned this before, it's a bunch of cards that gives you secret missions, and secret stuff where you're trying to do things is so fun and helps give so much replayability just to the core book, right? If you take Ulterior Motives and the core book, you can play that a long period of time, and you'll have a lot of fun and a lot of different things before you run out of Ulterior Motives, because each player only uses one, and I think it's like 52 or something. or a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, and if you're playing with two players, I think ulterior motives is really, really good.
Yes. Oh
We don't
yes,
usually play
yes.
that way, but two players, strong suggestion to get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's super fun. Helps switch things up. All right. All right. Number 2.
Oh, I think I'm going with the Thaw the Lich Lord.
Okay. All
It
right. You
got
want to explain Thaw of the Lich Lord and what makes it great?
so I think the narrative behind it was super strong because in
Mm-hmm.
each mission you feel like just from the descriptions of the things that show up on the board, you feel like the Lich Lord is out there and he's sending his minions at you,
Yep.
and you've got to kick their ass. And they're actually like they're pretty damn dangerous, and you don't know if you're going to be able to
Yep.
do it. So I feel like the narrative behind it and the fun of the missions, amazing.
Yep. I agree. It's a great 10 mission campaign. And it really, once you've played, a lot of the missions from the book, having that long 10 narrative campaign is really, really fun, especially when you culminate in taking on the Lich Lord, which, just so you know, you probably want to have a third player just for the last game to
Yep.
play the Lich Lord when you have your two other people playing. So you kind of have a very, very different ultimate battle than most of the battles that you're doing. So I agree, it's great, great campaign.
Yeah. All right. So would you name
All
that
right.
your number two as well?
Um. Well, I'll say that that's my number 1.
Okay.
So because I think our number 2 and your number 1 is probably going to be the same one.
Yep.
Uh, So yeah, that's my number 1, and the reason why I think it beats out what we're going to talk about next is because it is really a very tight and very simple way. Like there's no fat on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it was the first mission book. So it's the first campaign book, definitely, with the 10 mission campaign, like the
Mm-hmm.
first long campaign book.
Yep.
And so it's really tight and it's very easy for new players to get in because uh, it's pretty close to the core book in terms of all of the gear, all of the special items and everything like that, giving you that
Mm-hmm.
long, special treasures, right? With the ultimate battle. So it's a really, really tight experience. And for me, this is like the number 1 book you should buy if you ever want to buy one, because the campaign play on that thing is just it's great. It raises the entire game to the next level.
Yeah, I might almost say that the missions in it are overall better than what I'm going to name as the top one, but I'll say why I name my top one later. All right.
Sure. All right. What is your number 1?
It is Maze of Malcor.
Yep, that's my number 2 because it is also very good.
Yeah. So I feel like
All
the
right.
storytelling behind it and like how the storytelling explains the world is the
Mhm.
strongest of all of the books. It just feels like it really
Yeah.
brings you into the world of Frostgrave. So
Yes.
that absolutely top tier for that. The missions themselves might not be as well constructed as the Lich Lord ones, because you're actually fighting a
Mhm.
lot more magical things in Maze of Malcor, and the bestiary is a little weirder. So its experience is a
Yeah.
bit more like off the beaten path, and you feel like you need to
Yeah.
build in certain ways. But the narrative behind it, I would say,
Oh,
is
it's so
so
good.
good. Yeah.
I feel like Maze of Malachor is once you've played uh, Frostgrave for a long period of time, Maze of Malachor is some of the most fun you'll have. Like Lich Lord is a better beginner campaign, which is
Yep.
why I rated as number 1, because I feel like most players who are going to play, if they're going to play just one, you should play Lich Lord, right? It's just a
Okay.
solid experience to move. But if you've already played Lich Lord, if I were to say which one I found more fun in the end, just as the gameplay, besides the fact that Lich Lord might win out because it's the first long campaign you played, right? But the crazy stuff that happens, like you said, the world building, the crazy items that you get like and modeling opportunities, right? With a boat, you get a boat halfway through the
Yep.
campaign that you can fly around with. It is like so different and so wacky, and then you end up fighting the headmasters, right? Which means that there's a lot of um, third-party play, right? So instead of being the ultimate mission, which in Thaw of the Lich Lord, there's actually a whole bunch of different mini bosses that you have to fight throughout the campaign, which is great, but at the same time, like, it's great to play for us when you have the perfect group, right? We played multiple people on the same table, and we had, when we played, we had a guy always do these NPC wizards, right? So he changed it over to do that.
So they didn't behave like morons. They behaved like they were a real opposing force.
Yeah, because they were.
Yeah.
And he loved it. He loved basically being kind of like a dungeon master, right? When you're thinking about it, the last few missions of Maze of Malcor, you can play it almost like co-op.
Yeah,
right?
but somebody does
competitive
win. Like, there is a winner, but if the person who's playing the NPCs really wants to go at you and just start killing the crap out of your wizards and apprentices,
if you don't,
you can be like, whoa, they're just another player in the game.
Yes, so it's the kind of thing where, like, if you do not team up a little bit to fight the player who's playing the Maze of Malcor guy, you will die.
They can take you apart one by one.
Really strong. Yeah, so like I said, right, there's just the variety of play in Maze of Malcor is so strong, right? That's the kind of strength. And you get extra spells too, which is like from these special scrolls, which gives you the largest variety of gameplay of any of the things that we played, except for maybe like Into the Wilds. Like there's it's bigger than Into the Wilds, honestly. Maze of Malcor has bigger variety of gameplay. So I totally can understand why you would put it at number one. For like veterans of Frostgrave, definitely should pick this up. But for new players, I'd be like, you should finish Lich Lord first, and if you want a second campaign, then you will have a lot of fun with Malcor.
Yep, I would agree on that one. So.
Yep. All right. So those are the expansions for the book. And that is the overall the Frostgrave Awards from Dice Over Everything of all the different things. Now, we've gone through a lot of different things. We even rated some of the bad wizard schools, but I just want to say, like we said at the beginning, there's not really that bad spells. Like, Frostgrave is a great game. You can do all sorts of crazy stuff. Even some of the worst spells that you can take, well, maybe not the useless spells, everything but the useless spells, can give you a huge amount of fun and variety of gameplay. And like, that's the thing. Like, we were trying to rate the top 5 things. It is some of the hardest breakdowns you want, because, you know, even though there's a certain level of power, there's a lot of fun in even the mediocre or the spells that didn't quite make it on the list. So there's just a huge variety, and you can constantly be playing it over and over again.
Yeah, and like we talked about with each school, like, they have a different play style. So whatever play style you want to play, or if you've played one style before and you want to choose a new style to play, it gives you those opportunities. So you don't we're not saying there's like one best way to play Frostgrave to win. There's different ways to play it, and they're all
for sure. They're so fun. And then when you add that with, you know, your units, best units, the monsters that you fight, which are so important to making the gameplay feel fun, and then of course those expansion books that we talked about, it really gives like a huge amount of gameplay to explore. It's not just about, you know, your best wizard, right? Just beating up the guys. Like it is in other games where we play Infinity, where the idea of competition is so much more important. But the idea of exploration of fun, different things, of theme, like we said with Malcor, right? Exploring this world is what makes Frostgrave such a good game. All right. Well, with that said, that concludes this Frostgrave 101. I hope you've found this really, really interesting. If this is the first one you've watched or listened to, you can go back. We have a full breakdown of all the different schools and different campaigns and units you want to bring. Yeah, so we hope that in the yeah.
Yeah,
What
if it's
else
one
is
of
there
those,
else to say?
if you heard one of those play styles and you're like, yeah, I think that play style would be cool, just go back and listen to that particular Wizard School episode and
Yeah.
see which, like we named a few different directions you could take those schools to, even though we only talked about kind of the big one we saw in this episode.
Yeah. So we hope your adventures in Frostgrave are long and full of treasure. With that said, if you want to give us a shout, you want to have any thoughts about Frostgrave, or if you found this helpful, yeah, give us a shout at contact@diceovereverything.com.
Or find us on Facebook. We're Dice Over Everything.
This has been Alan.
It's from Brandon.
Bye.